Ukraine's President Zelensky is due to meet with President Biden later as part of a critical visit to help secure US military aid. So Mr. Zelensky has called on Congress to overcome its delays, which he said would be cheered by the Kremlin. So he's also been meeting with the head of the International Monetary Fund. You can see here that's Kristalina Georgieva, after the IMF approved a $900 million payment for Ukraine as part of its over $15 billion loan programme. The IMF has also upgraded its growth forecast for the Ukrainian economy, predicting it will grow by some 4.5% this year. Here is President Zelensky.
We really demonstrated that we can reform our country during the war, and I think that is huge success for us. The second, really increasing GDP during the war, yes, and we have more jobs. More people come back. That's great. We are thankful to IMF, Kristalina, that I heard now and see it that you will support us financially. It's very important during this challenging period. That's why it means that Ukraine is strong and not alone.
I talked to Justin Urquhart-Stewart, founder of the investment platform Regionally, who explained how important the military aid is for Ukraine.
It's vital because actually what's the key happening in the States and also in the EU as well is how insular are they looking, or are they more isolationist are they becoming? Are you looking after their own economies rather than necessarily what's happening with Ukraine? Whilst Ukraine was seen as a winner or doing terribly well against the Russians, and that was fine. Everyone thought it was heading the same way. But now we've had the summer where they thought they were actually going to be able to break through and they didn't. That was always going to be extremely difficult. Then somehow the shine's got off it. And so is it going to be two more huge amounts of money being fed into the Ukraine? But they need it because they got nowhere else to grow. And all they do, although they've got good growth figures, I have to say I'm slightly suspicious over those growth figures. That's very encouraging. That in itself necessarily doesn't generate enough to actually pay for all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it's taking a huge toll on Ukraine as an economy because, of course, any men are drafted in to fight in this war. For the Americans, though, bankrolling a very long war, what is coming up for 2 years in February, when they have an election year next year, that's not going to go down so well, which is the problem within Congress, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. The Americans don't want to start going through the process they've seen before in the Middle East and elsewhere, trying to support other people's wars. And so it's very easy for the Republicans, especially, to just turn their backs and say, what's happening here? What about our own borders? Particularly, obviously, they make a noise about the Mexican border and wrap themselves in the flag. Very isolationist, which, of course, America has a history of doing. But on the other hand, Ukraine needs that support, particularly from the Americans, because although Europe can provide a certain amount of it, frankly, the big dollars come from America. Without them, they've got big problems.